A devoted husband from suburban Phoenix discovers his wife's secret affair through a viral TikTok video that appears on his own phone screen, shattering his perfect world in an instant and leaving him questioning everything he thought he knew about the woman he married. But 3 months later, when he uncovers what she has been hiding in their basement, the confrontation turns into a bloody nightmare that changes their lives forever and reveals a truth so devastating, it makes the affair look like a minor transgression. Marcus Thompson had always believed he was living the American dream. His wife Diana seemed perfect in every way, their twin daughters were thriving, and their Phoenix home was the envy of the neighborhood. But sometimes the most beautiful facades hide the darkest secrets, and Marcus was about to learn that lesson in the most brutal way possible. Marcus Thompson was the kind of man who believed in doing things the right way. At 34 years old, he had built a successful real estate business in Phoenix, Arizona, specializing in luxury homes in the Scottsdale area. His clients trusted him because he was honest, reliable, and genuinely cared about finding them the perfect home. Marcus took pride in his work, but his real joy came from his family. Diana Thompson was everything Marcus had ever wanted in a wife. At 31, she was stunning, with long auburn hair and green eyes that seemed to sparkle whenever she smiled. She had started as a lifestyle blogger 3 years ago, sharing content about motherhood, fitness, and home design. What began as a hobby had grown into a substantial social media presence, with over 200,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok. Their twin daughters, Sophia and Isabella, were 8 years old and the light of Marcus's life. The girls were identical in appearance, but completely different in personality. Sophia was the quiet, thoughtful one who loved reading and drawing, while Isabella was energetic and outgoing, always ready for an adventure. Marcus coached their soccer team on weekends and never missed a school play or recital. The Thompson family lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom home in the Ahwatukee foothills, with a pool in the backyard and a 3-car garage. Their neighborhood was filled with successful professionals and their families, the kind of place where children rode bikes safely and neighbors knew each other's names. Marcus had worked hard to provide this life for his family, and he was proud of what they had built together. Diana's social media career had taken off faster than anyone expected. Her content about balancing motherhood with self-care resonated with thousands of women who felt overwhelmed by the pressures of modern life. She shared workout routines, healthy recipes, and honest discussions about the challenges of raising twins while maintaining a marriage. Her followers saw her as authentic and relatable, someone who understood their struggles. But success had changed Diana in ways that Marcus was only beginning to notice. She spent more time on her phone, constantly checking comments and messages. She had become obsessed with her appearance, working out for hours each day, and taking dozens of photos to find the perfect shot. She hired a professional photographer for her content and started wearing more expensive clothes and jewelry. Marcus tried to be supportive of Diana's career. The income from her sponsorships and partnerships was substantial, and he was proud of her success. But he missed the woman he had married, the one who used to put her phone away during dinner and focus on their family conversations. Now, even family time felt like content creation, with Diana constantly positioning the girls for photos and videos. The changes in Diana's behavior were subtle at first. She started going to the gym more frequently, sometimes twice a day. She claimed she needed to maintain her fitness content, and Marcus accepted this explanation. She also began taking weekend trips for brand partnerships and influencer events, leaving Marcus to handle the girls alone. He did not mind the extra responsibility, but he missed spending time with his wife. Diana's phone had become her most prized possession. She guarded it carefully, never leaving it unattended and always keeping it face down on tables. When Marcus asked to use it occasionally, she would become defensive and claim that her business required privacy. She had changed all her passwords and insisted that her content creation process was too complicated for him to understand. The basement of their home had become Diana's private workspace. She had converted it into a content creation studio, complete with professional lighting, a ring light, and multiple camera setups. She spent hours down there, claiming she was filming content and editing videos. Marcus was not allowed in the basement during her work sessions, and she had installed a lock on the door. Marcus began to feel like a stranger in his own home. Diana's behavior had become increasingly erratic. and their intimate relationship had virtually disappeared. She claimed she was too tired from her workouts and content creation, but Marcus sensed something deeper was wrong. He started paying closer attention to her activities. But Diana was clever about hiding her tracks. The first real warning sign came when Marcus noticed Diana receiving late-night phone calls. She would step outside to take them, claiming they were business calls from brands on the East Coast. But Marcus knew that most legitimate business calls did not happen at 11 o'clock at night. When he asked about these calls, Diana became angry and accused him of being controlling and jealous of her success. Marcus tried to talk to his friends about his concerns, but they dismissed his worries. Diana appeared to be the perfect wife and mother on social media, and their friends saw only the curated version of their life. They told Marcus he was lucky to have such a successful and beautiful wife, and suggested that he was overreacting to normal changes that came with business success. But Marcus knew his wife better than anyone, and he could feel that something fundamental had shifted in their relationship. Diana had become a different person, someone he barely recognized. She was secretive, defensive, and increasingly distant from him and the girls. The woman who had once been his best friend and partner had become a stranger living in his house. The twins had also noticed changes in their mother. They complained that she was always on her phone, and that she got angry when they interrupted her work. Sophia had started having nightmares, and Isabella had become clingy and anxious. Marcus tried to compensate by spending extra time with the girls, but he knew they needed their mother's attention too. Marcus's business was thriving, but his personal life was falling apart. He found himself working longer hours, partly because he was successful, and partly because he dreaded going home to the tension and silence. He loved Diana deeply and wanted to save their marriage, but he did not know how to reach the woman she had become. Kyle Rodriguez was exactly the kind of man who attracted attention wherever he went. At 28 years old, he was 6 feet 2 inches tall, with a muscular build that came from years of dedicated training. His dark hair was always perfectly styled, and his confident smile had charmed countless women at the upscale gym where he worked as a personal trainer. Kyle had built his own social media following by sharing workout videos and fitness tips, and he had over 100,000 followers who admired his physique and lifestyle. Kyle specialized in training affluent women who wanted to transform their bodies and their lives. He was expensive, charging $300 per session, but his clients felt the investment was worth it. He had a talent for making women feel special and understood, listening to their concerns about aging, weight gain, and loss of confidence. His training style was intense but supportive, and he had a way of making his clients believe they could achieve anything. Diana first met Kyle at the exclusive fitness club, where she had recently upgraded her membership. She had been looking for a new trainer to help her create better fitness content, and several members had recommended Kyle. When she approached him about training sessions, Kyle was immediately intrigued. He recognized her from social media and was impressed by her following and her dedication to fitness content. Their first training session was professional but intense. Kyle pushed Diana harder than any trainer had before, but he also provided the kind of personal attention she craved. He complimented her form, encouraged her progress, and made her feel like the most important person in the gym. Diana felt energized and confident after their session, and she immediately booked 3 more sessions for the following week. Kyle understood the power of social media and the importance of building relationships with influencers. He offered to help Diana create better fitness content, suggesting camera angles and exercises that would look impressive on video. He even offered to appear in some of her videos, which would benefit both of their brands. Diana was thrilled to have a professional trainer who understood her business needs. Within 2 weeks, Diana and Kyle were training together 4 times per week. Kyle had adjusted his schedule to accommodate Diana's preferred times, and he often stayed after her sessions to help her film content. Their training sessions became longer and more intimate, with Kyle providing hands-on guidance and physical adjustments that seemed to linger longer than necessary. Diana found herself looking forward to her training sessions with Kyle more than any other part of her day. He made her feel young, attractive, and accomplished in ways that Marcus no longer did. Kyle was genuinely interested in her business success and offered valuable advice about growing her social media presence. He understood the pressures and challenges of content creation in ways that Marcus never would. Kyle was a master of building emotional connections with his clients. He remembered details about Diana's life, asked about her children, and showed genuine concern for her well-being. He complimented her, not just on her physical progress, but on her intelligence, her business acumen, and her dedication as a mother. Diana felt seen and appreciated in ways she had not experienced in years. The transition from professional to personal happened gradually. Kyle began texting Diana outside of their training sessions, sharing motivational quotes, and asking about her day. He started inviting her to join him for post-workout smoothies, where they would talk for hours about their goals and dreams. Diana found herself confiding in Kyle about her frustrations with Marcus and her feelings of being misunderstood at home. Kyle was careful to position himself as Diana's supporter and advocate. He listened sympathetically when she complained about Marcus's lack of understanding about her business. He validated her feelings of being underappreciated and encouraged her to prioritize her own happiness and success. He made Diana feel like she deserved better than what she was getting at home. The physical attraction between Diana and Kyle was undeniable. Kyle was everything that Marcus was not: young, fit, adventurous, and completely focused on his body and appearance. He made Diana feel desirable and exciting, qualities she had begun to doubt about herself. Kyle's confidence and charm were intoxicating, and Diana found herself fantasizing about him between their sessions. Kyle had done this before. He was skilled at identifying married women who were vulnerable and dissatisfied with their lives. He understood that successful, attractive women often felt trapped by their responsibilities and craved excitement and validation. He had learned to provide exactly what they needed emotionally before moving to the physical relationship. The first kiss happened after a particularly intense training session. Diana was exhausted and emotional, having just completed a workout that pushed her to her limits. Kyle was helping her stretch when their eyes met, and the attraction became too strong to resist. The kiss was passionate and desperate, filled with months of building tension and desire. Diana immediately felt guilty about the kiss, but Kyle was reassuring and understanding. He told her that what they shared was special and that she deserved to feel happy and fulfilled. He convinced her that their connection was natural and that she should not feel ashamed of her feelings. He made the affair seem like a natural progression of their relationship rather than a betrayal of her marriage. Within a week, Diana and Kyle were meeting for more than just training sessions. They began having lunch together, taking weekend trips under the guise of fitness retreats, and spending hours together in Kyle's apartment. Diana told Marcus she was expanding her business with new partnerships and brand collaborations, explanations that he accepted without question. Kyle was everything Marcus was not, and Diana felt alive in ways she had forgotten were possible. He was spontaneous, adventurous, and completely focused on pleasure and excitement. He made Diana feel young and rebellious, qualities she had suppressed for years as a wife and mother. The affair became an escape from the responsibilities and pressures of her real life. Diana began living a double life, maintaining her role as wife and mother, while secretly pursuing her relationship with Kyle. She became an expert at deception, creating elaborate stories to explain her absences and changing her behavior to avoid suspicion. She felt guilty about lying to Marcus and the girls, but the excitement and validation she received from Kyle made the guilt seem worth it. Kyle encouraged Diana to document their relationship discreetly, taking photos and videos that they could share privately. He convinced her that their love was beautiful and worth celebrating, even if they had to keep it secret. Diana began creating content with Kyle that was more intimate and personal than anything she shared publicly, but she kept these private videos as precious memories of their time together. The affair consumed Diana's thoughts and energy. She found herself constantly thinking about Kyle, planning their next meeting, and reliving their previous encounters. She began to resent the time she had to spend with Marcus and the girls, seeing her family obligations as obstacles to her happiness with Kyle. The video that would destroy Marcus's world was posted on a Tuesday afternoon at exactly 3:15. Diana had been filming content with Kyle at his apartment, and they had become careless about their privacy. What was supposed to be a private moment between them had been captured and shared without Diana's knowledge or consent. Kyle had been filming himself doing a workout routine for his own social media content when Diana arrived unexpectedly. She had cancelled her planned session with a client and wanted to surprise him with an impromptu visit. Kyle was shirtless and sweaty from his workout, and Diana was wearing a tight yoga outfit that showed off the results of their training sessions together. The video showed Diana entering Kyle's apartment with a key, clearly comfortable and familiar with the space. She walked up to Kyle and kissed him passionately, running her hands over his chest and whispering something in his ear that made him laugh. Kyle lifted Diana up, spinning her around as she wrapped her legs around his waist. The intimate nature of their interaction made it clear that this was not a professional trainer-client relationship. Kyle had been streaming his workout live to his Instagram followers, and he had forgotten to end the stream before Diana arrived. Thousands of people watched the intimate moment between Diana and Kyle, and within minutes, screenshots and screen recordings were being shared across multiple platforms. The video went viral within hours, with people commenting on the obvious affair and trying to identify the married woman in the video. Marcus had been showing a house to potential buyers when his phone started buzzing with notifications. He ignored them, initially, focused on his presentation and trying to close the sale, but the notifications kept coming, and he eventually stepped away to check his messages. He had received dozens of texts and missed calls from friends, family members, and colleagues. The first message Marcus read was from his brother, David. "Dude, you need to see this. Is this Diana?" The message included a link to a TikTok video that had been viewed over 2 million times in just 4 hours. Marcus clicked the link, and his world shattered in an instant. The video showed his wife of 12 years passionately kissing another man in what was clearly a familiar and intimate setting. Diana was wearing the yoga outfit she had left the house in that morning, claiming she was going to film content for a new fitness brand partnership. The timestamp on the video showed it had been filmed just 2 hours earlier. Marcus felt like he was going to be sick. He excused himself from the house showing and sat in his car, watching the video over and over again. Each viewing revealed new details that made the betrayal more painful. Diana had a key to the man's apartment. She was comfortable and relaxed in his space. The way they touched and kissed showed a level of intimacy that could only come from a long-term relationship. The comments on the video were brutal. People were calling Diana names, criticizing her for cheating on her husband, and speculating about how long the affair had been going on. Some commenters had identified Diana from her social media presence and were sharing screenshots of her family photos with Marcus and the twins. The private details of their life were being dissected by strangers on the internet. Marcus tried calling Diana, but her phone went straight to voicemail. He sent text messages asking her to call him immediately, but she did not respond. He drove to the gym where she was supposed to be training, but the staff told him she had not been there all day. He realized that everything she had told him about her schedule was a lie. The humiliation was almost as painful as the betrayal. Marcus's phone was constantly ringing with calls from friends, family members and colleagues who had seen the video. His business associates were calling to express their shock and concern. His clients were sending messages asking if he was okay. The most private and painful moment of his life had become public entertainment for millions of strangers. Marcus picked up the twins from school early, not wanting them to hear about the video from their classmates or teachers. Sophia and Isabella could tell something was wrong, but Marcus tried to act normal for their sake. He took them to their favorite restaurant for dinner, hoping to maintain some normalcy while his world fell apart around him. Diana finally returned home at 9 o'clock that night, 3 hours after her usual time. She walked in the door as if nothing had happened, greeting Marcus with a casual kiss on the cheek and asking about his day. Marcus realized that she had no idea the video had been posted and gone viral. When Marcus showed Diana the video on his phone, her reaction was immediate and devastating. She turned pale, her hands shaking, as she watched herself betray their marriage in front of millions of people. She tried to explain, claiming it was not what it looked like, but the evidence was undeniable. The intimacy and familiarity shown in the video could not be explained away. Diana's first instinct was to lie and minimize the situation. She claimed that Kyle was just a friend, that the kiss was a mistake, and that she had been going through a difficult time. She begged Marcus to forgive her, promising that she would end all contact with Kyle and focus on their marriage. She cried and pleaded, using every manipulation tactic she could think of to avoid the consequences of her actions. But Marcus had been watching Diana's behavior for months, and now everything made sense. The late-night phone calls, the secretive behavior, the locked basement, the constant absences, it was all connected to her affair with Kyle. The video was just the evidence that confirmed what Marcus had suspected for weeks. The argument that followed was the worst of their marriage. Diana alternated between begging for forgiveness and blaming Marcus for her infidelity. She claimed that he had been neglecting her, that he did not understand her needs, and that she had been lonely and desperate for attention. She accused him of being controlling and jealous, and said that Kyle made her feel alive in ways that Marcus never had. Marcus was devastated by Diana's words, but he was also angry. He had worked hard to provide for their family, and he had been supportive of Diana's career even when it meant sacrificing his own needs. He had never been unfaithful, never even considered it, and he could not understand how Diana could throw away their marriage and family for a fling with her trainer. The twins woke up to their parents arguing and came downstairs to find Diana crying and Marcus pacing the living room. Marcus immediately stopped the argument and took the girls back to their room, promising them that everything would be okay. But Sophia and Isabella were old enough to understand that something serious was happening between their parents. Diana spent the night on the couch, and Marcus locked himself in their bedroom. He could not sleep, his mind racing with questions and doubts. How long had the affair been going on? Had Diana ever loved him, or had their entire marriage been a lie? What would happen to the twins if their marriage ended? How would he rebuild his life after such a public humiliation? The next morning, Diana was gone. She had left early, claiming she needed time to think and figure out what to do next. She took her phone, her laptop, and a suitcase full of clothes. She left a note for Marcus saying she was sorry and that she would be in touch soon. She did not say goodbye to the twins. Marcus was left alone to deal with the aftermath of Diana's betrayal. He had to explain to the twins why their mother was not there. Field phone calls from reporters and bloggers who wanted to interview him about the viral video and try to maintain his business while his personal life was in shambles. He felt like he was drowning in the consequences of Diana's choices. The video continued to spread across social media platforms, generating millions of views and thousands of comments. Diana's social media accounts were flooded with criticism and judgment. Brands began canceling their partnerships with her, and her carefully built influencer career began to crumble. The affair had cost her everything she had worked for, but Marcus knew that his losses were far greater. 3 days after the video went viral, Diana finally returned home. She looked exhausted and defeated, and she begged Marcus to forgive her and give their marriage another chance. She claimed that she had ended things with Kyle and that she was ready to rebuild their relationship. But Marcus had spent those 3 days thinking about their future, and he was not ready to forgive and forget. Marcus told Diana that he needed time to process what had happened and decide what he wanted to do about their marriage. He agreed to let her stay in the house for the sake of the twins, but he made it clear that their relationship was over until further notice. He moved into the guest room and began the process of protecting his assets and considering his legal options. Diana seemed to accept Marcus's decision, at least initially. She was dealing with the destruction of her career and the public humiliation of the viral video. She spent most of her time in the basement, claiming she was trying to salvage her business and repair her reputation. Marcus was focused on taking care of the twins and keeping his own business running, so he did not pay much attention to what Diana was doing in her basement office. But Diana was not ready to give up on her relationship with Kyle, and she was not prepared to accept the consequences of her actions. She had been planning something that would ensure she could have the life she wanted, regardless of what Marcus decided about their marriage. The basement that Marcus was not allowed to enter held secrets that were far more dangerous than a simple affair. Marcus had been living in his own home, like a stranger, for 3 months after the viral video destroyed his marriage. Diana had returned to her routine of spending hours in the locked basement, claiming she was working on rebuilding her career and reputation. She told Marcus she was consulting with lawyers about suing Kyle for posting the video without her consent, though Marcus suspected she was still in contact with her lover. The twins had been asking more questions about why their parents were sleeping in separate rooms, and why their mother was always upset or angry. Marcus tried to maintain normalcy for Sophia and Isabella, but the tension in the house was affecting everyone. The girls were having trouble sleeping, and their grades at school had started to decline. Marcus had been meeting with a divorce attorney to understand his options and protect his assets. The lawyer had advised him to document everything and be prepared for a contentious divorce. Diana had made it clear that she would fight for half of everything, including Marcus's business and their family home. She claimed that her social media career had contributed to their wealth, and that she deserved compensation for her losses. On a Thursday evening in late October, Marcus came home from work to find the house unusually quiet. Diana's car was in the garage, but she was not in the kitchen or living room where she usually spent her evenings. The twins were at a sleepover with their friends, so Marcus was alone in the house with Diana for the first time in weeks. Marcus called out to Diana, but received no response. He assumed she was in the basement working, but when he walked past the basement door, he noticed something unusual. The door was slightly open, and he could see light coming from downstairs. Diana was always careful to keep the basement door locked when she was working, claiming she needed privacy to focus on her business calls and video creation. Marcus hesitated at the top of the stairs. He had respected Diana's privacy and her need for a dedicated workspace, even after discovering her affair. But something felt different about this evening. The house was too quiet, and Diana's behavior had been even more secretive than usual over the past few days. Marcus called Diana's name again, but there was still no response. He began to worry that something might be wrong. What if Diana had hurt herself? What if she was having a medical emergency? He decided to check on her, even if it meant violating her privacy rules. Marcus walked down the basement stairs, calling Diana's name softly. The basement had been transformed into a professional content creation studio, with expensive lighting equipment, multiple cameras, and a variety of backdrops and props. But as Marcus looked around the space, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The wall opposite the stairs was covered with photographs, documents, and handwritten notes. At first glance, it looked like a vision board or planning wall that many entrepreneurs used to organize their goals and strategies. But as Marcus moved closer, he realized that the wall was covered with detailed information about him, his business, and his daily routines. There were photographs of Marcus leaving for work, dropping off the twins at school, and meeting with clients. The photos had been taken from a distance, clearly without his knowledge. Some of the images were marked with dates and times, creating a detailed timeline of his activities over the past several months. Marcus found a folder on Diana's desk labeled Financial Records that contained copies of bank statements, business documents, and insurance policies. Diana had been methodically gathering information about his assets and financial situation. She had copied statements from accounts that she was not supposed to have access to, and she had been tracking his business income and expenses. But the most disturbing discovery was a notebook filled with Diana's handwriting. The pages contained detailed plans for what she called the new beginning. Diana had been planning to disappear with Kyle and start a new life. But first, she intended to ensure that Marcus would not be able to follow them or cause problems for their future. The notebook revealed that Diana had been researching how to access Marcus's business accounts and transfer money without his knowledge. She had been planning to liquidate his retirement accounts, sell his business assets, and empty their joint bank accounts. She had even been researching how to forge Marcus's signature on legal documents. Marcus sat down heavily in Diana's desk chair, his hands shaking as he read through the pages of her notebook. The woman he had loved and trusted for 12 years had been planning to steal everything he had worked for and leave him with nothing. The affair was just the beginning of her betrayal, but the notebook contained even more disturbing information. Diana had been researching Marcus's life insurance policies and had been asking detailed questions about the terms and conditions. She had been particularly interested in the accidental death benefits and the process for claiming insurance money. She had even researched the contact information for the insurance company and the documents required to file a claim. Marcus found printed articles about accidental deaths and insurance fraud. Diana had been researching cases where spouses had been killed in accidents, and the surviving partners had collected insurance money. She had been taking notes about methods that had been used and mistakes that had led to criminal charges. The most terrifying discovery was a hand-drawn map of Marcus's daily routes. Diana had been tracking his movements and had identified locations where an accident could be staged. She had marked construction sites, dangerous intersections, and remote areas where Marcus often drove to meet clients. She had been planning his murder. Marcus realized that Diana had been playing a long game. The affair with Kyle was not just about her happiness or fulfillment. It was part of a larger plan to eliminate Marcus and claim his assets. Diana had been methodically planning to destroy his life and take everything he had worked for. The basement also contained evidence of Diana's continued relationship with Kyle, with the love letters, photographs, and planning documents for their future together. Diana and Kyle had been planning to move to another state and start a new life with the money they would steal from Marcus. They had been researching properties, new identities, and ways to avoid detection. Marcus found evidence that Diana had been drugging his food and drinks with small amounts of medication. She had been researching the effects of various drugs and had been experimenting with doses that would make Marcus drowsy or disoriented. She had been planning to increase the dosage gradually until she could stage an accident that would look believable. The depth of Diana's betrayal was overwhelming. She had not just been unfaithful, she had been planning to murder him and steal his money. The woman he had loved and trusted had been systematically destroying his life while pretending to work on their marriage. She had been using their children as cover for her criminal activities. Marcus heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the notebook. Diana was coming down to the basement, and he was trapped in her workspace with evidence of her plans to kill him. He had to get out of the basement without letting Diana know what he had discovered, but there was only one way out, and she was blocking it. Diana appeared at the bottom of the stairs, looking surprised and angry to find Marcus in her private space. She demanded to know why he was in the basement and accused him of violating her privacy. Marcus tried to act casual, claiming he had been looking for her because he was worried when she did not respond to his calls. But Diana was not fooled. She could see that Marcus had been going through her things, and she realized that he had discovered her plans. The mask of the grieving, remorseful wife fell away, and Marcus saw the real Diana for the first time. She was cold, calculating, and completely without remorse for what she had been planning to do to him. Diana moved to block the stairs, and Marcus realized that he was in immediate danger. She had been planning to kill him eventually, but now that he had discovered her plans, she might decide to act immediately. He was trapped in the basement with a woman who had been planning his murder, and no one knew where he was. The confrontation that followed would test every instinct Marcus had for survival and force him to fight for his life against the woman he had once loved more than anyone in the world. Diana's transformation was immediate and terrifying. The moment she realized Marcus had discovered her plans, the pretense of being a remorseful wife disappeared completely. Her eyes turned cold and calculating, and Marcus saw a stranger standing at the bottom of the basement stairs. "You should not have come down here, Marcus," Diana said, her voice eerily calm. "You always were too curious for your own good." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady as he responded, "Diana, we need to talk about this. I know what you have been planning, but we can work this out. Think about Sophia and Isabella. They need their mother." Diana laughed, a sound that sent chills down Marcus's spine. "The girls will be fine. They will be better off without a father who could not even keep his wife happy. Kyle will be a much better father to them than you ever were." Marcus realized that Diana was completely detached from reality. She had convinced herself that her plan was justified and that she was doing what was best for everyone. The woman he had loved was gone, replaced by someone who was capable of planning his murder without any apparent guilt or remorse. "You cannot be serious about this, Diana. Murder? Stealing from our children's future? This is not who you are." "This is exactly who I am," Diana replied, moving closer to Marcus. "I have been planning this for months, Marcus. I thought about every detail, every possible outcome. You were supposed to have an accident next week, but now you have forced me to improvise." Marcus looked around the basement, searching for anything he could use to defend himself. Diana had positioned herself between him and the stairs, and he realized she had probably planned for this possibility. She had been thinking about this scenario for months, while he had been completely unaware of the danger. Diana opened a drawer in her desk and pulled out a small gun that Marcus had never seen before. She held it confidently, as if she had been practicing with it. Marcus realized that she had been planning every aspect of his murder, including how to handle unexpected situations like this one. "Where did you get that gun, Diana?" "Kyle got it for me. He has been so helpful with all the planning. He understands what we need to do to be together." Marcus felt a surge of anger at the mention of Kyle's name. The man who had destroyed his marriage had also been helping his wife plan his murder. "Kyle is using you, Diana. He does not love you. He just wants your money." Diana's face flushed with anger. Kyle loves me more than you ever did. He appreciates me, he understands me, and he supports my dreams. You never did any of those things. I supported your career, Diana. I supported your dreams. I loved you and our family. You tolerated my career because it made money. You never understood what it meant to me. You never saw me as anything more than a wife and mother. Marcus realized that arguing with Diana was pointless. She had created a fantasy world where she was the victim and he was the villain. Nothing he said would change her mind or make her see the reality of what she was planning to do. The sound of a car door slamming in the driveway made both Marcus and Diana freeze. Someone was coming to the house, and Marcus prayed it was not the twins returning early from their sleepover. He could not bear the thought of his daughters walking into this nightmare. "Who is that?" Marcus asked. Diana smiled. "That would be Kyle. I texted him when I saw you down here going through my things. He is here to help me clean up this mess." Marcus felt his heart sink. He was now facing two people who had been planning his murder, and his chances of survival had just gotten much worse. He needed to find a way to get out of the basement and call for help before Kyle arrived. Kyle's voice echoed through the house as he called Diana's name. Diana called back, telling him they were in the basement. Marcus heard footsteps on the floor above them, and he knew he had only seconds before Kyle joined them. "Diana, please think about what you are doing. Our daughters love you. Do you really want them to grow up knowing their mother is a murderer?" Diana's expression softened for just a moment, and Marcus thought he might be getting through to her. But then Kyle appeared at the top of the stairs, and her resolve returned. Kyle was carrying a large duffel bag, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had done this before. Marcus wondered if Kyle had helped other women eliminate their husbands, or if Marcus was his first victim. Either way, Kyle seemed completely comfortable with the situation. "Is he going to be a problem?" Kyle asked Diana, nodding toward Marcus. "He knows everything," Diana replied. "We need to move to Plan B." Marcus did not want to know what Plan B involved, but he suspected it meant killing him immediately, rather than staging an accident. He looked around the basement one more time, searching for any possible escape route or weapon he could use to defend himself. Kyle unzipped the duffel bag and pulled out rope, duct tape, and plastic sheeting. Marcus realized they had been planning for this possibility and had come prepared to kill him and dispose of his body. The level of premeditation was staggering. "We can make this easy or hard, Marcus," Kyle said, his voice calm and professional. "Easy means you cooperate, and we make it quick. Hard means you fight us, and we make it slow and painful." Marcus knew he had no choice but to fight. He had two daughters who needed him, and he was not going to let Diana and Kyle destroy their lives. He also knew that Diana and Kyle could not be trusted to keep their word about making it quick and painless. When Kyle moved closer to Marcus, Marcus grabbed a heavy lamp from Diana's desk and swung it at Kyle's head. The lamp connected with a sickening thud, and Kyle stumbled backward, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. Diana screamed and pointed the gun at Marcus, but he was already moving. He grabbed the desk chair and threw it at Diana, knocking her off balance. The gun went off, the bullet embedding itself in the basement wall. Kyle recovered quickly and lunged at Marcus, tackling him to the ground. Kyle was stronger and more athletic than Marcus, but Marcus was fighting for his life. They rolled across the floor, each trying to gain control of the situation. Diana was screaming at Kyle to hold Marcus down so she could shoot him, but Kyle and Marcus were moving too much for her to get a clear shot. The gun went off again, this time shattering a light bulb and plunging part of the basement into darkness. Marcus managed to grab a screwdriver from Diana's desk and drove it into Kyle's shoulder. Kyle screamed in pain and loosened his grip on Marcus. Marcus broke free and scrambled toward the stairs, but Diana was waiting for him. The gun was pointed directly at Marcus's chest, and Diana's finger was on the trigger. Marcus could see the hatred and desperation in her eyes, and he knew she was going to kill him. But as Diana pulled the trigger, Kyle stumbled into her, his vision blurred from the head injury. The bullet went wide, and Marcus dove to the side. He grabbed Diana's wrist and twisted it, forcing her to drop the gun. The fight that followed was brutal and desperate. Diana clawed at Marcus's face, trying to reach his eyes. Kyle, despite his injuries, tried to help Diana by grabbing Marcus from behind. Marcus fought with everything he had, knowing that losing meant death. Marcus managed to push Diana away from him and grabbed the gun from the floor. He pointed it at Kyle, who was advancing on him with the screwdriver still protruding from his shoulder. "Stop!" Marcus shouted. "Both of you stop right now." Diana and Kyle froze, realizing that Marcus now had control of the weapon. But Marcus could see in their eyes that they were not giving up. They were just waiting for an opportunity to attack again. Marcus backed toward the stairs, keeping the gun pointed at Kyle and Diana. He needed to get out of the basement and call the police, but he was afraid to turn his back on them even for a second. "You cannot keep us here forever, Marcus," Diana said. "And you do not have the guts to shoot us." Marcus realized that Diana was right. He was not a killer, and he could not shoot them in cold blood, even after everything they had done to him. But he also could not let them go free to try again. The standoff continued for several minutes, with Marcus trying to figure out how to escape while Diana and Kyle waited for their chance to attack. The basement was filled with the smell of blood and gunpowder, and Marcus could hear his own heart beating in his ears. Finally, Marcus heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police, probably a neighbor who had heard the gunshots. Help was coming, but Marcus was not sure he could hold off Diana and Kyle long enough for the police to arrive. Kyle made his move first, lunging at Marcus despite the gun pointed at him. Marcus pulled the trigger, and Kyle collapsed to the floor, blood spreading from a wound in his leg. Diana screamed and rushed to Kyle's side, giving Marcus the opportunity he needed to escape. Marcus ran up the stairs and out of the basement, locking the door behind him. He called 911 and reported that there had been a home invasion and that shots had been fired. He did not want to explain the entire situation over the phone, but he needed the police and paramedics to come immediately. The next few hours were a blur of police interviews, medical examinations, and paperwork. Marcus was treated for his injuries, which included scratches on his face and bruises on his arms and torso. Kyle was taken to the hospital with a gunshot wound to his leg and a head injury. Diana was arrested and charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and firearms violations. The basement evidence spoke for itself. The police found Diana's notebook with her detailed plans to kill Marcus, the photographs she had taken of him without his knowledge, and the evidence of her research into insurance fraud and murder methods. The case against Diana and Kyle was overwhelming. Marcus had survived the attack, but his life had been forever changed. He had to explain to Sophia and Isabella why their mother was in jail and why they would not be living with her anymore. He had to rebuild his sense of security and trust after being betrayed by the person he had loved most. The physical wounds healed quickly, but the emotional scars would take much longer to fade. Marcus had learned that the person you love most can also be the person most capable of destroying you. He had also learned that he was stronger and more capable than he had ever imagined. The legal proceedings that followed were swift and decisive. Diana's notebook, combined with the physical evidence from the basement and the testimony of what had happened during the confrontation, left no doubt about her intentions. She was charged with attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and multiple firearms violations. Kyle faced similar charges, plus additional counts related to his role in planning the scheme. The prosecution argued that Kyle had been the mastermind behind the plot, manipulating Diana's emotions and convincing her to betray her family. Kyle's history of affairs with married clients became part of the evidence, showing a pattern of predatory behavior. Diana initially tried to claim that she had been manipulated by Kyle and that she never intended to hurt Marcus. She hired an expensive defense attorney who argued that she had been emotionally vulnerable and had been coerced into the conspiracy. But the detailed planning in her notebook and the physical evidence from the basement contradicted her claims of innocence. The media attention was intense but different from the original viral video. This time, the focus was on Diana's criminal behavior rather than her personal life. The story of the suburban mother who had planned to murder her husband for insurance money captured national attention and sparked discussions about social media culture and the pressure to maintain perfect appearances. Marcus chose to speak publicly about his experience, hoping to help other people recognize the warning signs of dangerous relationships. He appeared on several television programs, and gave interviews to magazines and newspapers. He wanted people to understand that domestic violence and murder plots could happen in any family, regardless of wealth or social status. The twins were Marcus's primary concern throughout the legal process. Sophia and Isabella were devastated by their mother's actions and struggled to understand how the woman they loved could have planned to hurt their father. Marcus arranged for them to receive counseling and therapy to help them process their trauma and grief. Marcus made the difficult decision to seek full custody of the twins. Diana's parental rights were terminated as part of her plea agreement, and she would not be eligible for visitation even after her release from prison. The girls would grow up without their mother, but Marcus believed this was necessary for their safety and emotional well-being. Diana ultimately accepted a plea deal that would keep her in prison for 25 years, without the possibility of parole. She would be 66 years old when she was released, and Sophia and Isabella would be adults, with families of their own. The plea deal spared the twins from having to testify at trial, but it also meant that Diana would never face a jury for her crimes. Kyle received a similar sentence after accepting his own plea deal. His career as a personal trainer was over, and his social media accounts were deleted. The man who had built his reputation on helping women transform their lives had been exposed as a predator who exploited vulnerable women for his own gain. Marcus had to rebuild his life from the ground up. His business had suffered during the months of legal proceedings and media attention, but his clients remained loyal and supportive. Many of them had experienced their own relationship challenges and admired Marcus's strength and resilience. The house where Marcus and Diana had lived held too many painful memories, so Marcus decided to sell it and start fresh. He bought a smaller home in a different neighborhood, where the twins could attend new schools and make new friends. The fresh start was important for all of them as they began to heal from their trauma. Marcus began dating again after 2 years, but he was much more cautious about relationships. He had learned to trust his instincts and to pay attention to warning signs that he had previously ignored. He was also more selective about introducing women to his daughters, knowing that Sophia and Isabella needed stability and security above all else. The twins thrived in their new environment. They excelled in school, made close friendships, and developed new interests and hobbies. They still missed their mother and struggled with feelings of abandonment and betrayal, but they were resilient and had strong support systems in place. Marcus established a college fund for both girls using the money he had saved from Diana's planned theft. He also increased his life insurance coverage and updated his will to ensure that Sophia and Isabella would be financially secure if anything happened to him. He had learned the importance of protecting his family from financial manipulation and fraud. The viral video that had initially exposed Diana's affair became a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media and the pressure to maintain perfect appearances online. Diana's story was featured in documentaries and true crime podcasts as an example of how the pursuit of online fame and validation could lead to criminal behavior. Marcus became an advocate for domestic violence awareness and spoke at conferences and events about recognizing the signs of dangerous relationships. He emphasized that domestic violence was not always physical, and that emotional manipulation and financial abuse were serious crimes that could escalate to murder. The basement where Diana had planned Marcus's murder was completely renovated and converted into a family room where the twins could play games and watch movies with their friends. Marcus wanted to replace the space of darkness and deception with a place of light and joy for his daughters. 5 years after the attack, Marcus had built a successful new life for himself and his daughters. He had learned to trust again, but more carefully. He had found love again, but more wisely. He had survived the ultimate betrayal and emerged stronger and more appreciative of the people who truly cared about him. Sophia and Isabella grew up to be strong, independent young women who understood the importance of honesty and loyalty in relationships. They had learned difficult lessons about trust and betrayal at a young age, but they had also learned about resilience and the power of love to overcome even the most devastating circumstances. Marcus's story serves as a powerful reminder that the people closest to us can sometimes pose the greatest danger to our safety and well-being. The signs of Diana's betrayal had been there for months, but Marcus had rationalized them away because he loved her and wanted to believe the best about their relationship. The importance of trusting your instincts cannot be overstated. Marcus had felt that something was wrong with Diana's behavior, But he had ignored his gut feelings because he did not want to appear controlling or jealous. He had prioritized maintaining peace in his relationship over protecting himself and his children from a dangerous situation. Social media culture played a significant role in Diana's transformation from loving wife and mother to would-be murderer. The pressure to maintain a perfect online image and the validation she received from her followers became more important to her than her real-life relationships. The pursuit of fame and financial success ultimately corrupted her values and led her to make choices that destroyed her family. The story also highlights the importance of financial awareness and protection in relationships. Diana had been able to access Marcus's financial information and plan her theft because he had been too trusting and had not taken proper precautions to protect his assets. Couples need to maintain some level of financial independence and oversight, even in loving relationships. Marcus's survival and recovery demonstrate the power of resilience and the importance of seeking help when facing difficult circumstances. He could have allowed Diana's betrayal to destroy his faith in love and relationships, but instead, he chose to rebuild his life and create a better future for himself and his daughters. The twins' ability to overcome their trauma and thrive in their new circumstances shows that children are more resilient than we often give them credit for. With proper support and guidance, they can recover from even the most devastating experiences and go on to live healthy, happy lives. If you have found this narrative compelling and thought-provoking, I encourage you to share it with others who might benefit from hearing Marcus's story. The warning signs of dangerous relationships are often subtle and easy to miss, but awareness and education can help people protect themselves and their families. Please subscribe to True Crime Village for more stories that combine entertainment with valuable life lessons. Every story we share is carefully chosen to provide insights that can help you navigate the complexities of relationships, trust, and personal safety. Remember that your safety and the safety of your loved ones should always be your top priority. Trust your instincts, maintain your independence, and never hesitate to seek help if you feel threatened or unsafe. Marcus's story could have ended very differently if he had not been prepared to fight for his life and the future of his children. Thank you for taking the time to learn from Marcus's experience. Your awareness and vigilance can make the difference between recognizing danger early and becoming a victim of betrayal and violence. Stay safe, stay alert, and never forget that the most important relationship you have is the one with your own instincts and judgment.